Stop. Don't scroll. There is a record that was just made in heaven about what you endured in silence this week, and I was sent to deliver you the exact answer. You have been carrying a phantom weight, absorbing the hostility of environments before you even speak, walking into rooms that reject you for a decree you don't even know you carry. The battle started early, and the toll is being collected right now. Your soul feels exposed, as if an invisible mark on your forehead draws an unexplained hostility everywhere you go. Your sleep is disturbed, broken by a heavy vigilance that you cannot explain, a spiritual amnesia that leaves you exhausted before the day even begins. The physical toll of this spiritual displacement manifests as a constant, heavy exhaustion, a draining energy that feels like a targeted attack on your very genesis. The decisions you make with the purest intentions somehow twist and break, leaving you standing over undone opportunities and wondering what went wrong. You try to build, you try to establish a foundation, but an unseen hand seems to misplace your efforts, ensuring that your earliest memories of rejection dictate your current reality. It feels as if a locked door stands between you and the destiny you know you were born to fulfill. And this hostility doesn't just stop at you, your house absorbs these arrows. The heavy silence around the family table grows louder with each passing year, where you look completely disconnected from the bloodline around you. Your loved ones catch the overflow of this unseen war, the tension thickening the air in your own home, making you realize that the lifelong feeling of being dropped in the wrong nest is not just a psychological burden, but a generational target. I promise you that by the end of this message, you will finally understand the spiritual concealment of your birthright and the ancestral envy directed at the mark you carried from day one. You will see clearly why the enemy identified you as a threat the moment you took your first breath, and how this hidden decree has shaped every unexplained rejection you have ever faced. I also promise to hand you an actionable tool of coverage, a spiritual shield, that you can execute today to break the cycle of premature spiritual sabotage. You will not just be diagnosed, you will be armed with the exact architecture needed to defend the divine seed placed within you, ensuring that the usurper no longer dictates the terms of your peace. Finally, I promise that we will seal this revelation with a definitive declaration of victory, stripping the power from the shadows that have followed you since the crib. We will lock this truth into your spiritual DNA. If you feel the weight of this, please stay until the end. Don't break the line before. Have you ever felt that the lifelong feeling of not belonging, the battles that started before you could even speak, isn't just human, but spiritual? And what if this constant displacement is a sign that there is a battle against the purpose God placed upon your life from the womb? While many try to explain this away as childhood trauma or being the black sheep, few realize that the enemy doesn't target you just for what you have done, but for what God has been building over you since day one. But what if the true reason for this relentless envy lies precisely in the hidden decree from the day you were born that you haven't yet been able to see? Now think with me. What if everything you have faced up to today, the heavy silence around the family table, the invisible target painted on your back, is the answer to that question you have carried in silence for years? Why did the war against me start before I even knew how to fight? It was while seeking answers to this that I found this digital book called The 7 Spiritual Reasons Why the Chosen Ones Face So Much Envy. This book is not just reading, it is a key of spiritual understanding, a tool made for those who wish to see beyond appearances, to stop absorbing the hostility of environments, and to understand why the spiritual concealment of their origin operates against those who carry a mark from God. Several chosen ones here on this channel have already felt the call of the spiritual shield, but haven't yet made the decision to download the digital book. Download it right now. It is available in the first pinned comment, but beware, this content may not be available for long. It reveals spiritual reasons that many prefer to ignore, because they expose what exists behind the heavy silence around the family table, the invisible target painted on your back, and the old photograph where you look completely disconnected. Don't wait for the next night of spiritual amnesia to seek what you already feel you need to understand. Click now, download your copy, and find out why the spiritual concealment of your true origin could not stop what God started in you. And if you're among the first to download, come back here and leave it written. Amen. This will be your act of faith, and today, God may show you the reason why this lifelong spiritual amnesia operates against your life. This is why there is a shadow of the Almighty, a secret place designed specifically for those who were targeted from the womb. When the enemy tries to bury your decree in confusion and family rejection, this coverage acts as an impenetrable shield, hiding you from the ancestral envy that seeks to misplace your spiritual birth certificate. It is the definitive shelter for the marked. If this revelation resonates with the phantom crown you have felt your entire life, and if you recognize that this message is the exact diagnosis of your hidden genesis, I invite you to declare your position. Subscribe to this channel. This is not just a click, it is an alignment with the prophetic voice that pulls the veil off your past. And about exactly this, about the heavy silence around the family table, about the invisible target painted on your back, about the old photograph where you look completely disconnected. There is a 3-minute seal that fits exactly within the next night. You lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight, and that I will show you later on. Tuck it away in the back of your mind. And beyond our digital guide, Chosen One, you have here another way to strengthen this message that arrived at your house today, and to make it reach more and more chosen ones like you. We don't receive a single cent for each word I deliver to you every day on this channel. As a way for you to give back something of what you receive here, we also keep a voluntary donation link open, right below the digital book, in the first pinned comment. Any amount that fits in your hand today, any sum your heart points to. This is what keeps our channel standing. This is what makes the next message reach another person who needs it, exactly the way you need it today. I'll see you there, Chosen One. And if you need to leave before the end of this video, this shield is already waiting for you in the first pinned comment right down below. But I ask you to stay until the end, because without the context that comes next, the seal does not work with the same force over the revelation of your true origin. I haven't told you the most important thing yet. What you have seen so far is only the surface of the spiritual displacement you have endured. There is a deeper layer to this lifelong amnesia, a specific celestial notation made about your life that explains the precise nature of the attacks you face. And I need to reveal it to you right now. Close your eyes for a second, or at least look away from the screen right now. I don't want you focusing on the visual distractions around you, because what we are about to touch is deeply spiritual and requires your absolute attention. I'm going to describe 5 things to you. If I am right about at least 3 of them, you and I will know exactly why you stopped here today. The first sign happens when you walk into a room full of people and instantly feel an invisible wall form around you. It's that sudden, unexplainable shift in the atmosphere where conversations slightly alter and you absorb the hostility of environments before you even speak. This isn't just social awkwardness or anxiety. It is the spiritual realm reacting to the mark you carry. The enemy paints an invisible target on your back before you can even introduce yourself, identifying the royalty you haven't yet realized you possess. The second sign occurs in the quiet moments of your achievements, when your victories are met with an eerie, disproportionate resistance. You build something with pure intentions, yet you face battles that seem entirely out of scale to your actions, as if an unseen hand is actively misplacing your efforts. You feel a phantom weight pulling you down, just as you are about to step into your season of harvest. This is because the spiritual threat you represent was identified the moment you took your first breath, triggering a premature sabotage. The third sign hits you at the most intimate gatherings, manifesting as the heavy silence around the family table when your childhood is mentioned. You look at old photographs and feel completely disconnected from the bloodline around you, searching for a home in a lineage that was spiritually blinded to your true identity. You realize that your lifelong feeling of being dropped in the wrong nest wasn't a normal family dynamic. It was an ancestral envy directed at the magnitude of your birthright, a spiritual displacement operating against you since the womb. And about staring at the mirror at 3:00 a.m., suddenly realizing the lifelong feeling of not belonging was a spiritual displacement that you recognized just now. I have already left the shield waiting for you in the first pinned comment. If you need to leave before the end, it is there. but stay because the name of what is happening to you hasn't been spoken yet. The fourth sign reveals itself in your deepest moments of solitude, when a heavy exhaustion paralyzes you without any physical explanation. You wake up already drained, carrying the invisible bruises of a spiritual war fought while you were sleeping, paying the price for a hidden decree you don't even know you carry. It is a relentless spiritual amnesia designed to keep you exhausted, ensuring that you never have the energy to uncover the divine seed and origin placed within you on the day you were born. The fifth sign is that quiet, unbreakable intuition that your life was meant for a completely different trajectory, a timeline that was hijacked early on. You feel a phantom crown on your head, yet your daily reality consists of fighting from the servants' quarters, facing unexplainable hatred from those who subconsciously sense a royalty they cannot explain. This is the ultimate proof that an envious usurper hid your royal decree on the day of your birth, actively trying to ensure you would never reclaim your rightful throne. Now take a second. How many of these 5 resonated with you? 3, 4, 5? If at least 3 of them resonated, you already know that this message is exactly for you. This isn't a coincidence, and it isn't an algorithm guessing your feelings. It is a divine interception, a moment orchestrated to pull the veil off your past. The time has come to stop living exposed to these attacks. We are going to establish the shadow of the Almighty over your life, creating an absolute barrier against this premature spiritual sabotage. By the time we finish, the ancestral envy that has targeted your birthright will lose its legal ground, and the spiritual amnesia keeping you in the dark will be shattered forever. If this diagnosis aligns with the phantom weight you have carried since childhood, and if you recognize that this prophetic voice is finally naming the battles you fought in silence, then you must declare your position right now. Subscribe to this channel. This is not just clicking a button on a screen, it is a spiritual alignment, a physical step taken to confirm that you are ready to stop wandering in the dark and ready to reclaim the royal decree that was hidden from you. Before I show you the instrument of coverage that will shield the royal decree hidden in your spiritual DNA, I need to give you the name of what you carry, because the shield only makes sense after you know the name of the target. And there is a word in Hebrew that defines exactly this concealed seed, a word that recontextualizes everything I have just described to you in the last few minutes. There is a classification in celestial records that describes exactly what you are. The signs that just hit you didn't hit by chance. The heavy silence around the family table, the invisible target on your back, the old photograph where you looked disconnected, all of it was recognized. A celestial notation was made. The seal of this hour you are crossing was seen. This is a transition point, because between being chosen and being covered, there is a gap that the envious one knows better than you. And this is the lost interval, not because the anointing was revoked, because the next night you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight has arrived, and the spiritual concealment of your true origin still leaves you exposed. And I'm telling you this because I've seen it happen. I have seen it with chosen ones who were exactly staring at the mirror at 3:00 a.m., realizing the lifelong feeling of displacement was a spiritual attack. I saw the heavy silence around the family table turn into a weapon of isolation. I saw the invisible target painted on their back turn into active sabotage. I saw the old photograph of disconnection turn into a generational curse of rejection. And not because you were a bad son or daughter, because the envious one entered right at the root of your true origin without anyone noticing. When I use this word, the envious one, I'm not using a metaphor. I'm naming what obscures your genesis, what misplaces your spiritual birth certificate, and what targets your destiny. And you already know this. You just hadn't given it a name yet. You absorb the hostility of environments before you even speak, walking into rooms that reject you for a decree you don't even know you carry. You carry a lifelong phantom weight of not belonging, searching for a home in a bloodline that was spiritually blinded to your true identity. You face battles that seem disproportionate to your actions, paying the price for a spiritual threat the enemy identified the moment you took your first breath. Before I name the shield against this ancestral envy, bring your thumb to the first pinned comment, right down below. Don't click yet. Just let your eyes get there and acknowledge that it exists. Do it now. It was exactly seeking this answer that I arrived at this digital book called The 7 Spiritual Reasons Why the Chosen Ones Face So Much Envy. It was not a random discovery. I did not write this to be a motivational book. You need a shield, and I am passing on exactly what shielded the old photograph where you look completely disconnected. Don't wait for the next night of spiritual amnesia to seek what you already feel you need to understand. It is in the first pinned comment, right down below. Tap the link now, secure your copy, and discover why the spiritual concealment of your true origin could not stop what God started in you. And if you are one of the first to download, come back here and write, Amen. Let your sign of faith be declared in the comments. The enemy has no legal authority to stop what God decreed from the day you were born, and to seal this definitively. The principle is clear. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That is the absolute rule, because whoever is covered from birth survives the spiritual concealment of their true origin. The marked from birth without learning this architecture becomes an easy target for premature spiritual sabotage. The digital book that is in the first pinned comment was built upon this architecture. It is the exact tool to survive the ancestral envy directed at the magnitude of your birthright. But here is the resistance point, less than a cheap cup of coffee bought in a rush to forget the feeling of displacement. Less than the gas money spent driving aimlessly to clear your head from family confusion. Less than a fast food meal eaten in silence while wondering why your battle started so early. That is the price. Because they were choices driven by the heavy burden of not belonging. And here, in the face of something that can change the spiritual concealment of your true origin for the next 12 months, you will think twice. Not because it is worth less. It is the immediate retaliation of the spiritual concealment of your true origin. This hesitation has a name. It is the voice of the envious one, trying to keep the decree of your birth hidden in the dark, dressed as financial prudence. Don't let that voice win. And it has a 7-day guarantee. If you open it, read it, and it doesn't fit, send an email and get all your money back. No questions, no process, no judgment. It is a risk-free shield, especially when what is at stake is the coverage of the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. The urgency is real, because you will be tested on the next night. You lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. Sarah, 45 years old, a woman who felt like an outsider her whole life. She wrote to me on a Tuesday at 2 p.m., blaming herself for a spiritual displacement, crushed by the heavy silence around the family table. She read the book between Tuesday and Wednesday, sealing her origin in her bedroom at night, and sent me a message saying the family rejection had lost all its power over her mind. David, 30 years old, a man who always fought invisible battles, he reached out on a Sunday morning, exhausted from the invisible target painted on his back since he could walk. He opened the digital book right after lunch, activated the shield on his living room couch, and wrote back to report that the disproportionate attacks simply ceased. Rachel, 50 years old, a mother who felt the heavy silence at every family dinner. She emailed me on a Friday evening, believing her old photograph of disconnection was a generational curse of rejection. She uncovered her spiritual birth certificate that same night at her kitchen table and testified that the generational envy finally broke. Several chosen ones here on the channel are experiencing this. And while they cover the royal decree hidden in their spiritual DNA tonight, your calendar keeps running at the same pace theirs ran before they understood. Maybe 3 hours from now, you will be staring at the mirror at 3:00 a.m. without knowing how to defend yourself, without knowing how to pray correctly, without knowing how to break the cycle. Every hour without this understanding is an immediate victory for the spiritual concealment of your true origin. Every day, without knowing the name of what targets you, is a ground lost to the envious one. Every night without this shield is this lifelong spiritual amnesia solidifying, and your family doesn't notice either, and your children don't notice either, and this lifelong spiritual amnesia keeps arriving, with the same smile sitting in the same chair, walking out the same door. And before I deliver the next word that is still coming right now, because it is still coming, and it carries weight. Beyond our digital guide, Chosen One, You have here another way to strengthen this message that arrived at your house today, and to make it reach more and more chosen ones like you. We don't receive a single cent for each word I deliver to you every day on this channel. As a way for you to give back something of what you receive here, we also keep a voluntary donation link open, right below the digital book, in the first pinned comment. Any amount that fits in your hand today, any sum your heart points to, this is what keeps our channel standing. This is what makes the next message reach another person who needs it, exactly the way you need it today. I'll see you there. Again, chosen one. But do not leave now. The sealing is not finished. And pay close attention. The name is not a coincidence. It is the exact name of what is happening to you at this moment, a word that came from ancient Hebrew and crossed 3,000 years to find you on this night of revelation. And it was waiting for this exact moment. Stay, Zerah. Listen closely. Z-E-R-A. It translates to seed, origin, or offspring. But in the celestial records, it is not just about a biological birth. It is about your spiritual genesis. Most people believe they are under attack because of bad luck or family dysfunction, but that is a lie. The enemy saw the Zerah, the divine seed and royal origin placed within you on the exact day you were born. He moved immediately to bury it in confusion, family rejection, and relentless envy. This spiritual concealment operates with a very specific goal: to ensure you never discover the royal decree hidden in your spiritual DNA. The usurper knows that if you ever realize the true magnitude of your birthright, the phantom weight of not belonging will instantly shatter into pieces. You were targeted not for what you have done, but for what this Zerah represents. The unseen realm identified you as a threat the moment you took your first breath, triggering a premature sabotage designed to keep you exhausted and wandering. But the mark that made you a target is the exact same mark that guarantees your victory against this ancestral envy. Imagine a child born to inherit a kingdom, but on the very day of their birth, an envious usurper hides the royal decree and places this child in the servants' quarters. The child grows up performing menial tasks, facing unexplained visceral hatred from the other servants. These servants subconsciously sense a royalty they cannot explain, and their envy is a reaction to a crown the child doesn't even know they wear. This child feels a phantom crown, carrying a heavy burden of not belonging everywhere they go. The attacks they face aren't because they are a bad servant. They happen because the enemy knows that if the child ever finds the hidden decree from the day they were born, they will instantly reclaim the throne and strip the usurper of all power. The child's feeling of displacement wasn't a psychological issue, it was the ultimate proof of their stolen royalty. When they finally look in the mirror and recognize the mark on their own forehead, the illusion of the servants' quarters breaks forever. Does this unexplainable displacement and heavy exhaustion sound familiar to you? Joseph of Egypt was the most envied and most elevated man in the Old Testament. And this is not just a title in a history book, it is a biblical record signed by God himself. Joseph's life perfectly mirrors this spiritual displacement. The coat of many colors was just a physical manifestation of a spiritual mark placed upon him long before he could even defend himself. He dreamed while still a child, and his brothers envied him in heavy silence. He was sold by the very bloodline that should have protected him, thrown into a pit, and carried into Egypt as mere merchandise. His brothers didn't just hate him for his dreams, they hated him because of the hidden decree on his life from the moment of his birth. His true origin and purpose were hidden from them, but the envy followed him even into exile. He was falsely accused, spending years imprisoned without guilt. Yet, the Zerah inside him could not be erased by the hostile environments he was forced to absorb. Just like you, he faced battles that seemed disproportionate to his actions, paying the price for a spiritual threat the enemy identified early on. Then came the moment of elevation. He interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh and was raised to second in command over the greatest empire on earth. He was given the practical wisdom to navigate 7 years of abundance and 7 years of devastating famine. The spiritual amnesia that tried to keep him as a servant was shattered by the revelation of his true genesis. Ultimately, his elevation became the salvation of the very brothers who envied him. Jesus himself cited Joseph as a type of the Messiah rejected by his own. Joseph survived the ancestral envy directed at the magnitude of his birthright, not by fighting his family, but by stepping into the fullness of his hidden decree. And he did not take this wisdom to the grave. He left it recorded with a surgical precision that crossed 3,800 years without losing its edge. The man who was sold out of envy left the map for those who are envied today. And this map is exactly what you are about to receive in the form of an instrument. This is why the shadow of the Almighty is not just a metaphor, it is a literal architecture of defense against this lifelong spiritual amnesia. When you understand your Zera, the heavy silence around the family table loses its power to wound you. You stop trying to fit into a bloodline that was spiritually blinded to your true identity, and you start inhabiting the secret place where your decree is permanently protected. The truth is, the spiritual concealment of your true origin could not stop what God started in you. The enemy tried to use the hostility of environments and the heavy silence of family secrets to make you surrender your crown, but the mark of the chosen cannot be erased by ancestral envy. What was meant for premature spiritual sabotage only accelerated your divine positioning. The deepest truth is still to come, and it has your name on it. Let me stop for a full minute and put everything you just heard into simple words. No poetry, no metaphors, just the facts. You have spent your entire life feeling like an absolute outsider in your own family because you were targeted by a spiritual concealment that actively hid the true magnitude of your birthright. The relentless envy you face every single day is not a reaction to your behavior, your mistakes, or anything you did wrong. It is a direct, calculated attack on the divine decree that was placed upon your life from the womb. The invisible mark you carry triggered a premature spiritual sabotage designed to keep you permanently exhausted, confused, and wandering in circles without ever understanding why. And here is who you are inside all of this. You are the divine seed, the Zera, placed directly in a hostile environment by the hand of God to break a generational curse. You are the royalty hidden in the servants' quarters, the child whose very existence threatens the usurper's control over your bloodline. You are the one marked to reclaim what was stolen. Now, what comes next is the exact architecture you need to stop living as a victim of this concealed warfare and start operating in the total authority of what was decreed over your cradle. The first is the marked from birth. This is the chosen one who carries an undeniable spiritual weight that others can sense but simply cannot explain, drawing unprovoked hostility from the very first days of their life. They carry a visible anointing in the unseen realm that turns them into an immediate threat to the spiritual darkness operating around them. The spiritual implication of being marked from birth is that you never had the luxury of a neutral environment. The spiritual realm reacted to your presence before you even learned how to speak. This forced you to fight vicious battles you never started, just to survive the heavy silence around the family table and the constant rejection. The second is the blindfolded heir. This is the child born to inherit a magnificent kingdom, but forced to grow up performing menial tasks, simply because an envious usurper successfully hid their royal decree on the exact day they were born, keeping their true identity obscured from everyone around them. The spiritual implication for the blindfolded heir is a lifelong phantom weight of not belonging, a constant draining amnesia that makes you search for a home in a lineage that is entirely spiritually blind to your true identity. This dynamic keeps you perpetually exhausted, disconnected, and unable to claim your rightful position. The third is the displaced seed. This is the chosen one whose very genesis was maliciously obscured, placed in a seemingly wrong nest so that the sheer magnitude of their divine origin would be entirely buried under layers of family rejection and unexplainable childhood displacement. The spiritual implication for the displaced seed is that every single time you try to plant your roots, an unseen hand actively misplaces your efforts. This ensures you continuously absorb the hostility of your environment, leaving you without the strength to ever reclaim the powerful Zera planted deep inside of you. If you recognize yourself in any of these three, understand that the lifelong spiritual amnesia you have suffered was not a random accident of fate. It was a calculated, precise strategy to keep you entirely away from the exact revelation you are receiving today. Your presence here is not an algorithm at work. It is the shadow of the Almighty finally breaking the silence over your past. The fact that you are hearing these exact words means the spiritual concealment over your life has finally expired. Do not let this moment pass without declaring your position. Subscribe to this channel right now and permanently align yourself with the prophetic voice that is pulling the veil off your Genesis. I am going to give you a tool right now called the Seal of the Revealed Zera. You will execute this 3-minute protocol tonight, specifically during the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. Right when the heavy silence of family secrets tries to fill your bedroom and disrupt your peace. Step 1. Place your right hand over your chest, feeling the physical beat of your heart, and acknowledge aloud that the divine seed was planted there before any human rejection ever occurred. Step 2. Speak these exact words to the atmosphere. The decree of my birth is no longer hidden, and the ancestral envy over my life has lost all its legal right to operate. Step 3. Clearly visualize the invisible target painted on your back, completely dissolving into the protective shadow of the Almighty, replacing the mark of the targeted victim with the absolute seal of the chosen. You will know this seal is working when the heavy exhaustion that usually paralyzes your mind at 3:00 a.m. suddenly lifts, instantly replaced by a profound, unexplainable quietness in your spirit. The phantom crown you have felt your whole life will no longer feel like a heavy burden of displacement, but an unshakable anchor of absolute divine authority. And this tool I've just placed in your hands, it's a door. But there is a giant difference between opening a door and inhabiting the entire house. What you just received covers the next night. You lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. A punctual coverage. What is in the first pinned comment covers the 7 reasons why the spiritual concealment of your true origin chose you as a target. Not randomly, not because of your failure, but because something specific in you activated the Zera over your bloodline. It shows the 3 patterns it uses to reach the heavy silence of family secrets, and it gives you the complete ritual of coverage that you execute before the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight for the next 12 months. You have just been declared the marked from birth, but the marked from birth without a complete shield is an open target for premature spiritual sabotage. The seal you receive now is real. What is in the first pinned comment is what transforms this seal into an armor. And while you hear this, someone like you has already opened the link and is on the 3rd reason. I am not rushing you. I am telling you that the link is still there, exactly where you expected to find it, waiting for the same decision you are making now. But before you decide, I need to show you what the envious one will try to do against this tool in the next 72 hours. The moment you begin to operate in what you have just received, and this is going to happen in the next 72 hours, 3 specific things will be launched against you. The envious one does not surrender ground without a fight, and the spiritual concealment over your life will immediately try to restore the heavy silence you just broke. You need to know exactly how these counterattacks will manifest, because recognizing them is half the victory. Here is what will come your way and the exact weapon you will use against each one. The first attack is the "it's just a coincidence" doubt bomb. Tomorrow morning, a very subtle voice will whisper that everything you heard here was just a psychological trick, that the invisible target painted on your back is just bad luck, and that you are overthinking your family dynamics. This is an orchestrated spiritual whisper, designed to make you drop your shield and return to the comfortable amnesia you have lived in for years. When this doubt hits, you will not argue with it. You will place your right hand on your chest, right where you feel the phantom weight, and declare aloud, "My origin is not an accident, and the ancestral envy over my life has been exposed." Then, you will immediately recite the absolute rule, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." This instantly breaks the illusion of coincidence. The second attack is the pre-ritual distraction crisis. Just before the next night you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight, right when you are about to execute the coverage, a sudden, urgent problem will appear. Your phone will ring, a minor conflict will erupt in the house, or a sudden wave of heavy exhaustion will hit you out of nowhere. When this sudden crisis erupts, you will recognize it for what it is, a desperate maneuver to delay your spiritual ceiling. You will not try to solve the distraction right then. You will physically walk away, lock yourself in your room or your car, and execute the 3-minute protocol of coverage immediately. By prioritizing the shield over the crisis, you strip the distraction of its power, and the sudden exhaustion will vanish as quickly as it came. The third attack is the isolation of the one who sees too much. After you seal your origin, you will walk into a room and the feeling of not belonging will try to return, accompanied by an intense wave of loneliness. The spiritual concealment will try to convince you that because you now see the truth behind the ancestral envy, you are condemned to walk this path completely alone and misunderstood by everyone. Against this isolation, your weapon is the conscious awareness that you are not the only one. Remember that right now, thousands of chosen ones are shattering their own lifelong spiritual amnesia. When the loneliness hits, you will actively speak out. I am not isolated. I am set apart for a royal decree. By naming the isolation as a tactic, it loses its emotional grip on your mind entirely. And these 3 weapons I just placed in your hands, they are the most urgent. But I need to tell you one thing right now. There are 4 more tactics besides these 3. I cannot open them all here. Not for lack of time, for density. Each one needs its own page, with the exact counter-weapon, with the specific verbal declaration that neutralizes the attack the instant it arrives. And while I do not deliver these 4 tactics here, the spiritual concealment of your true origin knows them all. All of this is mapped inside the 7 spiritual reasons why the chosen ones face so much envy, along with the exact sequence of coverage applied to the ancestral envy directed at the magnitude of your birthright. You will need this, not tomorrow. You will need this tonight, when the spiritual concealment tries to make you doubt your royal decree by using the heavy silence around the family table. You will need this tomorrow morning, when the envy tries to erase the memory of this revelation and make you return to the servants' quarters. And you will need this on the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. When the unseen realm presses with maximum force to break your focus. The link remains in the first pinned comment. I am not rushing you. I am warning you that the second day is harder than the first, and the spiritual concealment of your true origin knows this better than you. But before you even think about clicking, I need to show you what you yourself will do against yourself in the next 72 hours. Because the worst obstacle is not the envious one. It's the voice you confuse with your own. It is the fear of sounding ungrateful. This is the most dangerous trap for someone carrying the Zera. As you begin to acknowledge the ancestral envy and the spiritual displacement you have suffered, a voice will tell you that by recognizing this truth, you are dishonoring your family. It will whisper that you should just be thankful for what you have, and that claiming this royal decree is a sign of arrogance. It sounds completely reasonable, disguised as humility and respect for the bloodline that raised you. But you need to reframe this immediately. Recognizing the spiritual concealment of your true origin is not an act of ingratitude towards your family. It is an act of obedience to the God who marked you from the womb. The ancestral envy operating through them is a spiritual sickness, and you cannot heal a bloodline by pretending the sickness does not exist. Remaining in the servants' quarters out of a false sense of obligation only empowers the usurper. Your specific defense against this fear is absolute clarity of purpose. When the guilt of sounding ungrateful tries to silence you, remind yourself that you are breaking a generational curse. Your elevation is not an insult to your lineage. It is the very mechanism God will use to ultimately bring light to the heavy silence of family secrets. You are not rebelling. You are reclaiming what was stolen before you could even speak. And there is one last thing, the one that worries me the most, that I am going to do with you before this message closes, because I know exactly what the enemy plans to do with your mind the moment this screen goes dark. And if I do not secure this final piece, everything we built here today could be stolen by morning. Close your eyes right now. Wherever you are, I need you to completely block out the physical world around you for just a few moments. Stop scrolling, stop moving, and let the heavy silence of the room settle around you. Place your right hand firmly over your chest, right where you have carried that phantom weight of not belonging for so long. Feel the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat beneath your palm. Take a slow, deep breath in, drawing air into your lungs, and as you exhale, physically release the tension in your shoulders. You have absorbed the hostility of environments before you even spoke for far too many years, walking into rooms that rejected you for a decree you didn't know you carried. Now, in this exact moment, we will strip the usurper of all power and permanently shatter this lifelong spiritual amnesia. I release you from the fear of sounding ungrateful, breaking the false loyalty that demands you bleed in silence just to maintain the fragile peace of those who carry the weight of what you were called to be. You no longer need to diminish your own divine genesis to comfort the mediocrity of a lineage that was spiritually blinded to your true identity. The ancestral envy over your life loses its grip the moment you stop apologizing for the royal decree placed upon your cradle. I release you from the repeated pattern of arriving home, carrying the invisible bruises of a spiritual war fought while you were simply trying to belong. You will no longer absorb the heavy silence around the family table as if it were your fault, nor will you carry the phantom weight of displacement into your own bedroom. The cycle of returning exhausted, drained by the disproportionate battles that started before you even knew how to fight, is permanently broken right here and right now. I release you from the shame of what you feel when you look at that old photograph and realize you are completely disconnected from the bloodline around you. The guilt of feeling like an outsider in your own nest is exposed as a manipulation of the envious one, designed to make you doubt your spiritual birth certificate. You are free from the internal accusation that your lifelong feeling of being dropped in the wrong nest was a flaw in your character, rather than a mark of your calling. I release you from the version of yourself that accepted absorbing the arrows without a shield, the version that thought enduring unexplainable hatred from those who subconsciously sense your royalty was a normal part of life. You are untangled from the voices of disqualification that whispered you were just a targeted victim of bad luck. The invisible target painted on your back is hereby washed away by the shadow of the Almighty, and you are no longer bound to the servants' quarters. I summon the marked from birth to step fully into the light, commanding the undeniable spiritual weight you carry to become an impenetrable shield against premature spiritual sabotage. Let the visible anointing in the unseen realm, which once made you an open target for the enemy, now rise as an absolute barrier of divine authority. The spiritual realm that reacted to your presence before you could even speak will now recognize the definitive seal of the chosen, placed permanently over your life. I summon the blindfolded heir to reclaim the kingdom that was hidden on the exact day of your birth, commanding the heavy burden of not belonging to shatter into pieces right now. The envious usurper is entirely stripped of power, and your true identity is no longer obscured from the celestial records. You will no longer search for a home in a spiritually blind lineage, because you are officially taking your rightful place under the absolute coverage of the secret place of the Most High. I summon the displaced seed to finally plant roots in the unshakable foundation of your divine origin, breaking the cycle of having your pure efforts constantly misplaced by an unseen hand. The sheer magnitude of your birthright is rising from beneath the layers of family rejection and unexplainable childhood displacement. You are no longer navigating the hostility of environments without defense. You are the divine seed operating in the total authority of what was decreed over your cradle. Keep your hand pressed against your chest, feeling the exact spot where the phantom crown is now secured, and repeat these words out loud with absolute conviction. The spiritual concealment over my life has expired, and the royal decree hidden in my spiritual DNA is now fully active. Speak it into the atmosphere of the room. Let your own ears hear the sound of this permanent victory. The old photograph where you looked completely disconnected is no longer a symbol of your isolation. It is the definitive proof that you were set apart for an elevation the envious one could never comprehend. The locked door of your earliest memories has been blown wide open, and the shadow that followed you from the crib has been swallowed entirely by the shadow of the Almighty. But do not say amen just yet. We are not done, and what comes next is the absolute seal over everything we have just established here in this room. The envious one will try to strike before morning, and you must hear the final instruction to lock this coverage in place and survive the next night. You lie awake, wondering why the battle started, before you even knew how to fight. Stay. The shadow of the Almighty is now establishing an absolute perimeter around the heavy silence of your family table. Every time your childhood is mentioned from this day forward, the ancestral envy trying to turn those memories into a weapon of isolation will hit this invisible wall and shatter. The displacement that used to sit next to you during family gatherings is being permanently evicted, replaced by the unshakable authority of the divine seed that can no longer be hidden or manipulated by those who refuse to see your true origin. This same coverage is now descending upon your physical house and the ones you love most. The arrows of unprovoked hostility that were aimed at your children, trying to paint an invisible target on their backs before they could even walk, are intercepted right at the doorframe. The spiritual amnesia that tried to establish a generational curse of rejection within your own home is completely dissolved, ensuring that the heavy exhaustion you fought in the dark never touches the sleep of those who sleep under your roof. And this seal extends directly into your daily efforts, your work, and the opportunities currently unfolding in your hands. The unseen hand that used to actively misplace your efforts and sabotage your purest intentions just as you were about to harvest is permanently paralyzed. The phantom weight pulling you down in the middle of your achievements is lifted, ensuring that the royal decree hidden in your spiritual DNA begins to manifest in every door you touch, every project you build, and every step you take out of the servants' quarters. I see you. I've always seen you. I saw you staring at the mirror at 3:00 a.m., looking at your own eyes under the dim bathroom light, exhausted and desperately trying to understand why the lifelong feeling of being the black sheep felt so heavy. I was there when the tears finally broke, when you realized this wasn't just a difficult family dynamic, but a targeted spiritual displacement, because you were marked as a threat from the womb. I saw the phantom crown pressing against you when you thought you were completely alone. I saw you sitting at that family dinner last Thanksgiving, trying to make yourself smaller, just so the air would start circulating again after your childhood was casually mentioned and the room fell into that heavy, unbearable silence. I saw how you swallowed the hostility of the environment before you even spoke a word, retreating into yourself to protect the peace of a bloodline that was completely spiritually blinded to your true identity. I saw the exact moment you accepted the blame for an ancestral envy you never provoked. I saw you holding that old family photograph in your living room, tracing the faces and feeling a visceral, heartbreaking disconnection from the people standing right next to you. I saw the quiet grief in your eyes as you searched for a home, in a lineage that always treated you like an outsider, dropping you in what felt like the wrong nest. I saw the invisible target painted on your back long before you could walk, and I was the one who sustained your spirit every time the usurper tried to break you. We break the "it's just a coincidence" doubt bomb before it ever reaches your mind in the morning. We dismantle the pre-ritual distraction crisis before it is launched against the coverage of your bedroom. We completely dissolve the isolation of the one who sees too much before it can form a wall of loneliness around this house. I commission you to walk out of the servants' quarters and step fully into the royal decree that was hidden on the day of your birth. I commission you to stop absorbing the hostility of environments and start dictating the spiritual atmosphere of every room you enter. I commission you to carry the Zira not as a heavy burden of displacement, but as an absolute, undeniable shield of divine authority over your entire lineage. The spiritual concealment of your true origin is officially expired. The ancestral envy directed at the magnitude of your birthright has lost all its legal ground over your life. You are sealed, you are covered, and you are finally seen for the royalty you carry. I saw you staring at the mirror at 3:00 a.m., realizing the lifelong feeling of displacement was a spiritual attack. Do not open your eyes yet. Keep your hands on your chest. The seal is fresh, and it is exactly now that the envious one will attempt the first strike. What was sealed here now will be tested on the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. When the silence gets heavy, when the old doubts creep in, and when the feeling of displacement tries to return, the envious one does not accept without a fight what was just decreed over you, and he who was commissioned without coverage walks in the open field. The anointing was confirmed in heaven. Now it needs to survive the next night you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. The 7 spiritual reasons why the chosen ones face so much envy is in the first pinned comment right down below. Not as a substitute for what you received in this message, as a companion to defend what was sealed. Because anointing without coverage rots on the next night, you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. And the envious one counts exactly on the next night you lie awake, wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. Less than a morning latte bought to wake up from an exhausting night of spiritual attacks. Less than a quick afternoon snack to numb the feeling of being an outsider. With a 7-day guarantee. The risk is ours. The move is yours. Click now, while the decree is still alive in your chest. Not tomorrow, not after the shower, not after talking to someone. Because the first person you'll talk to will have a reasonable opinion that will cost the shield of your house. Because whoever leaves it for later, leaves it for never. And the envious one already knows this. He counted on later when you received the last message that transformed you, and the one before, and the one before that. This one won't be another one. This voice whispering right now, I'll look at it later. Tomorrow I'll decide, well, now is not the right time. I shouldn't spend on this right now. I need to think it through. This voice is not yours. It sounds like yours. It uses your vocabulary. It knows your excuses. But it is the voice of the one who lost today in the court of heaven and is trying to regain ground before the next night you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. Every second that voice gains is a second the decree loses temperature. Click before the envious one speaks louder than the decree that has just been sealed over your head. And now, the final word. The envy you faced because of your hidden decree is only the beginning of what the spiritual realm recognizes in you. There is a specific reason why this ancestral hostility chose to attack your finances and your ability to build a foundation right after it tried to isolate you from your family. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now, and I will show you exactly how to break the invisible sealing over your hands. And still in this video, chosen one, before I seal this hour with you. Beyond our digital guide, you have here another way to strengthen this message that arrived at your house today, and to make it reach more and more chosen ones like you. We don't receive a single cent for each word I deliver to you every day on this channel. As a way for you to give back something of what you receive here, we also keep a voluntary donation link open, right below the digital book, in the first pinned comment. Any amount that fits in your hand today, any sum your heart points to, this is what keeps our channel standing. This is what makes the next message reach another person who needs it, exactly the way you need it today. That was my last request. I'll see you there, chosen one. I sign my name under every word delivered here. I say aloud, intentional yes to the permanent breaking of this lifelong spiritual amnesia. If your spirit confirms this truth, if you finally recognize the mark of the Zera that you have carried since the womb, seal this covenant right now in the comments. Write Amen with all the intention of your soul, leaving your physical mark on this digital altar. There is someone out there who desperately needs to hear this. Someone who needs exactly the same shield you received here today. Someone who has been carrying the heavy silence of family secrets and the phantom weight of not belonging since childhood. Send this message to them right now. And if they want to go further, the link for the 7 reasons of the chosen is in the first pinned comment, waiting the same way it waited for you. It is not a favor from you. It is a service. And heaven sees it. It is done. What was delivered here was delivered. You are not the same person you were when you pressed play. Feel this gravity for one more moment. The next night you lie awake wondering why the battle started before you even knew how to fight. Can wait another 10 seconds.